Let's see what Steve Moore thinks of the idea. Steve, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
So we know that even a great plan can't exist in an unfunctional Congress, and it looks like that's what's happening. We'll get to the details of what's going on inside the House and how to get it working with a new Republican majority. But first of all, I love how Democrats are now talking about the unfairness of our tax code when, of course, they've done so much to load it up with these unfair deductions that the rich take advantage of. How do you think there'd be any of those Democrats who could be peeled off and join a Republican majority in an actual flat tax?
Well, David, you and I have been talking about this for 20 years since we worked together at the Wall Street Journal many years ago. And of course, it's such a wonderful idea. I mean, I don't have to expound on the virtues of having a simple low flat rate system that you can fill out in, an hour rather than, 10 or 20 hours figuring out how much taxes you owe. My wife was just telling me it's the new year. We have to worry about paying our taxes now. And she does the accounting. So that doesn't put her in a good mood. And so, I think the time is ripe for this because what we've done under Biden in just the first 2 years is continue to add all of this manure to the tax system and all these crazy loopholes and deductions. And then you have to, as you just said, you have to hire legions of tax lawyers and accountants, and then the government side has to hire more IRS agents, and the only people who make out on this are accountants and lawyers. And there's one other element to this, David, that is maybe the most important element, which is if you simplify the tax system, get rid of those loopholes and tax deductions, as you were talking about, then you can lower the American tax rates, which Reagan and Trump have proved, both of them, that when you do that, you get more growth, more capital coming to the United States, more business formation. What's not to like?
Now, there was a lot of hope in the beginning of the Trump administration that efforts would be made to really simplify, to get down to a flat tax. I know the taxes did get flatter. The rates came down. But the simplification was never really panned out the way a lot of us hoped it would. Why was that? Was it the lawyers and the accountants and the lobbies that pushed against it, or what?
You better believe it. And it's amazing. It's a miracle that we got accomplished what we did. I remember that first meeting with Donald Trump when Larry Kudlow and I kind of laid out a plan and Trump loved it. And we were able to get about, 50 or 60% of what we wanted. But let me just make one case, though, that something that radically simplified the tax system and all of the special interests hated it was what we increased what's called the standard deduction, which is you just check the box and take, I forget the number, 5,000, 6,000, I forget the amount. But what that meant is you didn't have to itemize all your deductions. Well, the special interests hated that, Larry. David, because they like the people taking advantage of all these loopholes, but that meant that for about 70% of American tax filers, they no longer have to itemize deductions, which is a big simplification.
But, it is amazing how a small group of people can push against something that if you explain it to folks in a very simple way, and it is a simplification, it's not difficult to explain it to Americans. I think they understand it. They would love the idea of the IRS being turned into a collection agency instead of a supersized 87,000 extra agents kind of bureaucracy. But the small group of people, would they again be able to prevent it from happening, the lobbyists?
Well, I always remember when Trump ran for president, one of his most memorable phrases and something that I think really carried him over the top was, remember, he used to say, drain the swamp. And we did some draining of the swamp, but we didn't drain a lot of it. But if you really want to drain the swamp, I came to the recognition you've got to clean up the tax system because that's where all the buying and selling of political favors is done. And so, look, given the fact that Biden now is saying, we have to double the size of the IRS, and people are saying, what, you want to, fill Yankee Stadium with more IRS agents? There has to be a better way. And what you're talking about, David, the moment might be right. And it used to be, though, a lot of Democrats, what I call the JFK Democrats of yesteryear, they were for that. And now I don't know why. For some reason, they want high tax rates and lots of deductions.
But this brings us back to what's happening today, because we had everybody from Kevin McCarthy to Jim Jordan, who at one point was running against Kevin. Now he actually put his name up for nomination during the second round. This could be one issue that could bring the Republicans together right now. I mean, the Freedom Caucus is for it. Kevin McCarthy is for it. Could something like that be what would bring Republicans together in the House?
A great idea. I love the way you think. And I think that there is something to that, a unifying message that would really resonate with the American public. And by the way, David, Republicans need that right now after the atrocity of that, the omnibus, I call it the omnibusted bill because it busted our country.
Yes.
And, conservatives and Republican activists are very angry at the people in Washington for doing that, and the Republicans. This would be a way of maybe winning back people's trust.
Yeah, and by the way, your Committee to Unleash Prosperity newsletter that I get every day is invaluable, by the way. Great information. The lead story on that is from the Washington Examiner. Apparently, Mitch McConnell, who of course was for this Omni bill and pushed it in the Senate, he's going to be hosting President Biden in Kentucky for an event celebrating the president's economic plan. What's that about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, my goodness, the Biden wants this kind of bipartisan, quote, victory tour for a bill that added hundreds of billions of dollars more to our debt, and Republicans shouldn't get anywhere near that. Any Republican who voted for that bill should go to confession. And they need contrition because it's a terrible bill, and it's time to, now that the Republicans are going to take over the House, and we don't know yet who the Speaker is going to be, but it better be somebody who wants to simplify the tax system and cut with a chainsaw, out of control government spending.
By the way, if there was a confession box in the House or the Senate, the line would go all the way around the Capitol several times. So I don't think that'll happen anytime soon. Steve Moore, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David.